Thanks for joining us. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jesse Gunkel, and here is the very latest on Cristobal, which is now slowly strengthening. Hurricane Hunter aircraft went out there earlier this evening just around 10, and they found out that winds are now sustained at 45 miles per hour. It's still moving pretty swiftly towards the north at 14 miles per hour, so the current position now sits 440 miles south of the mouth of the Mississippi River. As you see here, a lot of thunderstorm activity still well east of the center of the circulation. A very lopsided storm. As you notice, thunderstorms are quickly popping up, heavy and torrential rainfall. More storms are really starting to flare up across portions of Mexico, Belize, and Guatemala. Obviously, this extends well south. Some of those outside feeder bands, that's really where we're starting to see all those rain bands. And really, that's going to be our biggest concern because we've got a very long fetch going back into the Gulf as the storm gets a little bit closer to our coastline. So far, we haven't seen any of those rain bands start to wrap around the system. A lot of dry air currently in place and keeping it from doing so, keeping those storms a little bit east of here. But I do want to point out they've just upgraded the entire viewing area. We now all sit underneath a tropical storm warning. Now that does include East Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge, Point Capee, East and West Feliciana, St. Helena, all of Tangipahoa, St. Washington, St. Tammany. We're even talking Iberville and all the way to the coast from Morgan City all the way to the Florida Panhandle at this point, now sitting underneath that tropical storm warning. Everything west of Morgan City now underneath a tropical storm watch. Well, here's the concern. As that system gets a little bit closer, I want to point out that all of this is outside the levee system. If you're behind the levee walls, you should be fine. Even in the city of New Orleans, things are looking fine, where we could see a storm surge of about 3 to 5 feet from the mouth of the Mississippi all the way to Ocean Springs, Mississippi. We're talking 2 to 4 just around Grand Isle to Morgan City, and then about 1 to 2 for our lakes, like Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, mainly because of those winds coming in from the southeast. And obviously, since the path is going this way, all those winds are going to wrap around and push that water a little bit further inland. So here's that current track. And right now, it really hasn't adjusted or moved much. As you can see here, it kind of sits between Morgan City and Grand Isle for your landfall. We are looking at a gradual window where it could strengthen into the 60s, I think, for winds, sustained winds out there with a couple stronger wind gusts. We're talking a strong tropical storm, most likely not a hurricane, because again, it's going to battle a lot of factors out there in the Gulf before it even gets close to us. As you see, some gusts already at 60 miles per hour. By the time we get to late Sunday, I'm talking probably about midday to afternoon, early evening, making landfall by Monday morning. Already inland tropical storm, northern half of the state, winds already down to 40 miles per hour. Depression going into Monday evening, and then it quickly races to the Ohio River Valley. But notice your water vapor channel, and I just want to show you, this is all dry air getting sucked and almost enclosing this system as we speak. So we'll have to see if this wraps around. We could see it kind of sitting on an island for a little bit. All that dry air, a little bit of wind shear ahead of this system, obviously going to keep that intensification process a little bit slow for at least the next day and a half. So here are the potential impacts for the Baton Rouge area. 3 to 7 inches of rain on average. 10 plus, we're talking underneath those feeder bands where we could easily see 2 to 3 inches of rain per hour. Winds 25, maybe 35. That's sustained. Couple gusts up to 40, 50 out there. Here, obviously, it's a little bit stronger near the coast. Maybe an occasional funnel across the lakes or the Gulf. Maybe even a very weak tornado, quick spin up out there, but otherwise coastal flooding, as we'll look for our seas to be about 1 to 2 feet above normal. Again, this is all subject to change, and I think that's the key here. If the path moves a little bit further west, well, obviously our impacts could increase. And I do want to point out, as you see here, we may have, by the time we get to about Sunday morning, tropical storm force winds near the coast. By midday here in the capital, and then obviously north of there as we make our way into the evening hours. Now again, this is just one model. This is the American model, keeping that heavy band of rain because the system's going a little bit further west, keeping all that heavy rainfall on top of us. That's where we're going to have to really watch out for flash flooding concerns. As you look at the European model, this one goes a little bit further east of us, and it keeps those storms in Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And obviously our impacts will be much lower. So let's hope for that scenario. I do want to point out that we do sit underneath a flood watch until Tuesday morning because of that potential rain threat. As you see here, pretty alarming totals out there. Could increase if those rain bands set up on top of us. Here's just one model, and it kind of follows more so the European, and you can see all that heavy rainfall obviously here for Mississippi and Alabama outside of our area. But again, it could all shift towards us over the next day and a half. Rain chances quickly jump going into Sunday and Monday. We'll start out with rain early. Some of those outside feeder bands making their way inland by Sunday morning, pushing through the area late Sunday, and then going into early Monday. We'll get back into a drier pattern heading into early next week. I also want to point out that we do sit under a marginal risk, and the reason for that is the possibility of an isolated tornado heading into Sunday night. So now is the time to prepare, not panic. You still got all day Saturday before conditions really start to go downhill. Make sure you've got plenty of water, batteries. There is that chance that we could be without power for a few short hours. Most likely, we're not going to have to worry about evacuations, but still, just have a game plan just in case, and make sure you avoid that social media hype. Find a trusted source that you can rely on some information. Also, make sure to take care of your pets. And here's that 7-day planner for you. What I do want to point out, again, a couple storms tomorrow, still very hot. But again, it's all about Sunday and Monday at this point for timing, the potential for flash flooding. We'll have to watch it very closely. Keep an eye on our rivers and streams just to see if they quickly swell out there. Tuesday, Wednesday, as you see here, we get back to some drier pattern, or just a drier pattern. A few isolated storms, even some very mild conditions overnight. And most of what you're seeing here is just going to be the trailing rain bands as Cristobal continues to make its way towards the northeast. Just make sure you download our app. It's free. It has the very latest information. We're going to guide you through this storm throughout the entire weekend with multiple updates, so stick around online and also through social media and also on air, because again, we're going to continue to be with you throughout this entire storm. Thanks and have a good night.